Hey everybody, it's Kenny K here again, and I wanted to bring you for the month October, a more Halloween spirited movie, VHS Halloween, the new one from 2025. It gets 6.1 on IMDb, which isn't a bad score. It has multiple directors because each segment has a different director, like all the other VHSs. I believe Ty West has one and a few of the early ones. Um, Now this is gonna be a little bit longer review because we're gonna go segment per segment and I'm gonna spoil them. So keep in mind, fair warning. I'm giving it a 5.5. Now it's not because um, I think it's bad, but usually all the VHSs get a 5.5. That means it's certainly worth a rewatch, you know? It's well done. Now this one, um, the wraparound in this one, I did not care too much about. It's set in this 80s. A few of these segments are set in the 80s, and then the wraparound is set in the 80s. It's about this experimental company that wants to. They sent their rep to the UK, although the experimentees are American, but the lab techs are from the UK, and it's like this American Yankee dandy with cigarette in his mouth. The rep, that they sent. It's Blaine Rothschild. He's an asshole. He doesn't care what happens to these people at all, even to little. I have to say, they don't. If you've seen Terrifier 3, the Terrifier movies, they always amp it up. Now, gotta say, this one really amped it up with the child gore. Yeah, extreme child gore. Eh, Back in the 80s, when they actually killed a kid off screen or on screen, it usually was pretty lame, but they killed him or her. That was, oh my god, now. Oh, Jesus Christ. Um, no, so the segment is about this diet soda called Phantasm, and basically it's made of poltergeists or something. Yeah, they drink it. It smells like shit. They drink of it and they start to completely start to get fucked up. Their eyes get white. They're puking black shit, goo, and also the can is like in the thing having tentacles, like in John Carpenter's a thing, tentacles towards their mouth, and the soda is jamming itself in their mouth, and sometimes you have that kind of reaction. Sometimes you have a creepy reaction, like somebody's possessed, and you have somebody just with white eyes and standing in front of the screen, which is creepy. Um, the but because it's a one, one see-through mirror that you only can see from one side, and he says you can see me, and then you hear a demon voice, and then starts to hit it with her head until the head is pulp. Again, another a child is because at some point they use five people, and I'm already explaining wraparound. They use five people, but then the lab tech says we can only hold three people. No, do them all at once. I'm done with it. And then you have this little child with demonic eyes, and she's standing there in front of the window, and she says in a demon like voice, "Can I have another one?" And then the guy says, "Okay, it's ready, ship it." Okay, and that's the end. Usually these wraparounds end negatively. You know, they always end that the usually they're bad guys. You know, bad guys or people with bad intentions. They always end with they always end badly for them. Remember that kid alien that turns into these tentacles. Everybody dies. But personally, I never was creeped out about it. I never was creeped out about it. The it's just like this one is pure gore. It's pure gore. It's not creepy. The only creepy part was the demon lady who was standing there, and then she can see, and she nods yes, and then she starts to bang her head, and it was kind of creepy. But the creepiest ones are actually, and now you're gonna laugh maybe, are the first from the first VHS in my opinion, and the second VHS. The first VHS was the four guys with the body in the couch, but he disappears, and then apparently he's there again, and then he's actually a zombie, sort of Evil Dead zombie. And the second one is with that with these fucked up demon like ghosts running around in the apartment, and she's looking at the TV, but in the background you see somebody looking at her. That was way creepier, way creepier. Those first two VHS wraparounds. But I digress. First segment. Now, most of these segments are actually not super creepy. Now, this may be because I am horror dulled, but it's more of a ugh, disgusting or fucked up or vibe, that kind of vibe. Shocked a little bit, yeah. Not really. Oh shit, creepy. What's gonna happen next? That kind of thing. There's the first one had that when it starts. So the first one is about these two girls. I think their names Lacey and Kaylee, and they're wearing these onesies, and they're actually too old to go trick or treating, but they want to do it the last time. But then at some point, their kids knocking on their window, and they're saying, "The mom is gonna get you. The mom is gonna get you." But somebody says the mom or mommy witch is gonna get you, and then they're like, "Whatever," and then they go and they just take candy, like an entire bowl from somebody at the door. They take the entire uh, pouch of candy of kids. They're basically bitches. Like, especially the frizzy haired one. The frizzy haired one is the one who's doing all the shit, and the other one is filming it. But then she is kind of had enough, and then they see this house that they missed. They're sitting in the park eating their candy, but then there's this big house that's glowing, and how could we miss that? And you see kids and their parents go. They're not going in. They're actually going by, and the first clue that one of the girls have, the one that's filming, is why aren't they going in? I don't care, let's go in. And then they ring, ring, the door doesn't open, they go away. But then you see the door opening, blackness, and then you see this weird, creepy, which looks like a rotten zombie hands and a basket of what I presume to be candy. And you see, you hear somebody saying, "Coochie, coochie, coo," and then go back in, and that was pretty creepy. That was pretty creepy. And then the frizzy haired bitch says, well, "Let's get the fuck in there." Yeah, yeah, let's get in there. Let's get in there. And the other one says, "Are you crazy? Are you crazy?" No, no, no. Let's get in there. That's what we want, right? The creepiness. And then you get these creepy segments with this mom witch, and she has these yellow eyes. She looks pretty fucked up, and she's always like. Then she's at some point she when they want to escape, somehow she completely. It's like the Blair Witch Project. They can't get out anymore. Magically, she closed the door, and she's standing there behind the corner looking at them. Coochie, coochie, coo. And it's pretty creepy until I see this man baby with these blown up baby cheeks, like a baby has these thick cheeks, that's cute, but with a man baby that's fat and in these diapers, it's weird. Then they find this woman that's being drained out of her mouth, milk. Then you see this little kid in a cheerleader's outfit, also with these thick uh, cheeks, and she's like saying, "Mommy, mommy, mommy, mommy," and at some point, the the um the witch comes, hugs the frizzy haired girl, but she breaks her ribs while she's hugging her, and they're trying to get the hell out, but then they always go to places. You got windows in the lower level. Why not break those windows and get the hell out? I'm not sure if that would work, but they go upstairs in the attic, and she's sitting there, the witch, in her chair, and she's like singing that song, "Rockabye Baby," and you see the two girls just going towards her and sitting on their lap, and you see that they have these thick baby cheeks, and that's how this segment ends. And I thought it started strong, and I gotta say, it's probably the creepiest one of them all. But then halfway, it kind of became more disgusting and disturbing than actually creepy tinge. In beginning there, you got this tense atmosphere with this the witch looking at them from a corner, and then that coochie coochie coo sound. That was pretty creepy. But then, yeah, they go the same route. Like all these VHSs, especially the latter ones. I don't know how many there are now. Um, I had somebody who said I like the wraparound with the SWAT team. I didn't understand the SWAT team at all because it was all the television sets, and one of the SWAT team members was one of a cult member, and they gradually disappeared. These SWAT team members, I didn't understand. So no, not at all. And the last VHS I did not like a lot because half and half. I would give that a five because I'm not into that was Beyond, I believe, and that was mostly about UFOs and aliens. Uh, there were a few segments I did like, but here every segment I kind of liked, but it was always more disturbing than creepy. Also, now you're gonna probably call me maybe a racist or something, but it's not that. But last, I'm not sure in Beyond if they had that, but in the one before that, when their building is there's an earthquake and it's in a television station, and there is this Aztec god, and these rescue workers get possessed and kill each other, and it's in Spanish. Now I don't mind the Spanish part, I don't mind if it's in Spanish, if in Mexico or whatever, but I do mind if it's that one was really hectic and to the you gotta keep up what's happening. It's super hectic, and then you gotta read the subtitles and that. And for some reason, Hispanic people talk fast, and the subtitles go by fast. And then this one was different. Segment two was called Utsupra Sik Infra, which basically means so above, no, so b- below as a so so above as below, like the found footage movie in the catacombs of Paris, and it's basically about a group of friends that go into this kind of cellar, and they wanted to have this. They're all clothed in Halloween outfits, and they wanted to hold this sort of seance, but then the girl that was organizing it, they they go into the main room, but the main room has now a telephone in the middle of the room, but she says that telephone wasn't there, and it's not corded, so it shouldn't work, and it's going off, and this one guy picks it up, and then mayhem starts, and then we see the aftermath, and we see all these dead bodies without eyes, and one guy survives, the one who picked up the phone, and the police is grilling him, and they want a reenactment, so they go into the in the same place but in daylight, because it wasn't on the ground, so because you could see the day, the sun coming through. It was like in a sort of a church tower, and the guy is creeped enough already. He doesn't know want to get in there because he know what happened, and something happened to him. And then one of the detectives, female detectives, brought the telephone with them as a piece of evidence, and they're placing it in the middle, same place where it was standing, and the guy say, no, I don't want to do this. I have problems. My stomach, it's hurting, and then the telephone goes off again. Now the detective picks up, the lady detective, and she doesn't hear anything. Then you see the guy who survived puking up all these uh, eyeballs, and then you see everybody flying towards the ceiling, and it's weird, like as as above, so below, I guess, because he goes up, he opens a door from which is which is actually on the ceiling, and he starts to basically rip all their eyes out, and then they all fall to the ground. Segment ends. It wasn't creepy. It was just okay, kind of gory, but that was it. That was it. It wasn't creepy. It wasn't even disturbing. With okay, guy eye gouging, yeah, okay, but a very short segment too. Segment three is the that was the funniest one in my opinion. The fun segment three's fun size. It's basically a human candy. So you've got this bowl which says, because everything that was cool. Everything that was happening was in this one street. Yeah. Because later on we see that bowl again, and it says only take one. If you take two, you get sucked in the bowl. And there's a kid later on during segments who takes more than one, and he gets they also get sucked in the bowl. Now what happens is there's this guy. All these candies have weird names, and they don't know what it is. And one takes out a candy, and it's basically a dick. And he takes a bite out of it, and he says it's caramel and chewy. But then there's this white gooing, which is basically supposed to be semen. And but they are taking more than one, so the guy gets sucked in, and everybody gets sucked in because they're trying to hold on to each other, and they get sucked in, and they're in this factory with these weird lollipop figure people, whatever. And they're like, hello, hello, ho, 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 like doing that sound. And they're basically dragged into this conveyor belt, and you see through a screen what's happening. He's basically being chopped up in multiple pieces. You see the dick with the balls on, and you see the balls being chopped off, and the dick, and then you see them being caramelized with caramel, and then put in these packages. Now, they need the keys to the car because that guy had the keys there, so they're opening up all the packages to find his hand. They find it. Now, it's four people. It's four people, four younger, again, younger kids, younger adults who go trick or treating, which is again weird. And they have all these cameras on them, so they're explaining that, yeah, it's to make it like a found footage, so they can't complain that we keep filming because we have all these cameras on ourselves. Okay. And then one girl gets attacked, and she gets a fucking a drain in her ass full of Smarties, and it starts to push the Smarties through her ass, and her face explodes. All the Smarties come out of her face. Then she's stumbling towards the conveyor belt, and she goes through the same progress. And then these two last survivors, they're actually they're engaged. They go in, but it's actually a conveyor belt. They go into this they go into this shaft area, but it's actually a conveyor belt. And you see at the end, at the beginning of the shaft entrance, you see these lollipop fingers. Bye 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 bye. And you see them closing it up, and they say, "Oh fuck, it's a conveyor belt." And then this guy starts to say, "Oh, would you please take me as your lovely husband?" He's because he knows he's gonna die, so he wants to marry her. And then she says, uh, 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 uh "Yes, no." And it says, "What?" And then he's being sucked in the conveyor belt, and she gets through another way on the rooftop. You think she's safe. It's daylight, but then you see this lollipop guy doing kaboom, and you see her. He does this clapping sound. I'm guessing he's squishing her. That was a segment. That was actually more fun than funny than actually creepy, in my opinion. Then segment four is the most disturbing one. Oh fuck, man! And if you're talking about kid horror, yeah. So the fourth one is called Kid Print. So it's also in the 80s, and you've got this guy who owns this second used electronics store, but he's known as this super friendly guy in town. and he's making there's this serial killer going around killing kids horribly, mutilating them, and he's taking pictures of these kids and videos so they can be distributed around with for the parents so they can for their safety so they can go to the police if their kid gets missing so they have all the information. It's weird what he's doing. And then he has these two employees in the back. One is with his glasses, this weird guy, and then the other guy is this black guy, but it doesn't like to be disturbed. He's doing the video progressing thing. He's doing all the videos, progressing them. Now you think, now with Halloween, they have this lame Halloween in this town. Basically, the cops are handing candy out for an hour and they can do a few apple bobbings and things like that, but then they have to go home, curfew, because of this killer. Now, one of these cops asks the owner of the uh, used electronics store to get him a tape of one of these kids. One of them was kidnapped this morning, a girl, a 17-year-old girl, and he says, "Yeah, I filmed her. I'll get the tape. I'll get the tape." And he goes back to his store, which is being TP'd, and he says, "Oh, nice." And he still think, "Oh, it's gonna be the stone owner." You know, he's too what you call it? He's too happy with Halloween. He's too friendly. He goes in, then he hears somebody screaming, and then he goes in. He sees the corner where the black guy is sitting, and you see all these videos of kids being tortured, and I mean tortured. I mean like Leatherface shit, like the faces being peeled off with a knife, a kid being disemboweled with a knife, but it's very slowly, like, so he lives through the entire progress that he taps with the knife and says, "Now we're going for the next organ," and then he. Yeah, it's pretty fucking disgusting, and you don't know yet who it is, and then you turn around and you see it's the black guy who's doing all the killing. Now, what happens is the black guy is hitting the owner and putting him somewhere in the corner. Putting he has a kid in, he has the girl that was kidnapped, and you have another kid that's face is completely peeled off. Like it puts the peeled off face like leather face on the owner's face, and the owner is crawling towards the kid, the girl, and says, "Listen, no," to the peeled off face kid, and says, "Listen, listen. If we play smart, we can get the hell out of here." And then they say the girl comes out of nowhere with a knife, and the kid takes a hammer, and they say he's one of them, and they start to hit him, bash his brains in with the hammer, stab his ass with the knife. Then they get the hell out, and then they hear the black guy, "Happy Halloween, kids," and you hear them being disemboweled and shit. And then you see him being filmed with a fucking slab of meat on his face, what he wants to be. And then after that, they say that the owner was the kid killer because the killing stopped because the store was closed, because that's how the killer got his victims, right? Because all the kids came through that store, and now and the black guy is being filmed, and he says, "Listen, I want to reopen the store because I think we owe it to the kids, their security, to keep filming them and guaranteeing their safety. So he's basically gonna reopen the store to have a new batch of kids so he can mutilate and kill and whatever. So it's pretty fucking it's more disturbing than whatever. He's killing these kids in the most disturbing way possible. Like Terrifier 3, but even equally, yeah, equally, at least equally disturbing, maybe even more so. This jolly black guy. It's weird. It's weird. And then segment five is the home hound. You got these parents who always organize this hound. You know, this house of horror, but it's for kids. But they always go to these second-hand stores to find props, and then the guy finds this LP, which is Sounds of the Damned, which says Sounds of the Damned. So, oh, it's gonna be nice to play that. And they all get into the haunted house. He plays the LP, and what he opens is the gates of hell, and you get all these. In every room, you have this sort of demon that first room is all these so ghosts, like blanket ghosts, you know, attacking them and going under, surrounding them, you know, wrapping them around them, and then basically pureeing them. Then the second one is with demons that are cannibalistic demons, and the third one is with a witch that's also cannibalistic, eating one of the children of the parents, just ripping him apart and then eating him. And then they get the hell out, the two parents, and then one of their kids, and they say duck because the witch is coming out with her broomstick. And then you see the street, and that was pretty cool because it's a street where everything has been happening. You know, the Take One bowl, the Coochie Coochie Coo lady, and the witch is she when she's flying in mid-flight, she takes a kid her head off. Then she stabs a kid in the gut with her broomstick, and then she starts to disembowel the kid, taking all the guts out, and then pulling the kid off, and then you hear the witch flying away, and that's the end of that segment, and that's the end of Halloween VHS Halloween 2025. Now, listen, if you like it, please. Subscribe, it's free, no worries. What I thought is that I don't know. Some people say it's the best one yet. I say what it did right was capture the Halloween spirit. That's what they did right. And they started right with the Coochie Coochie Coo witch, but then they made it disturbing. And every found footage movie, I think after VHS 2 or 3 became these disturbing stories about more gore than content. The content was a way. Listen, the content was never too big in these short stories because they were short, but you still had some sort of content and some of atmosphere and creepiness to them. Some of them, not all of them. But nowadays, you don't have none of them. None of them are really creepy. Like I said, they started out right with the Coochie Coochie Coo witch, but then halfway through that segment, they fucked it up, in my opinion, and they made it disturbing again. And disturbing doesn't mean that I'm freaked out. It's creeped out. No, I'm kind of more disgusted. Yeah, disgusted and shocked in a way, especially with those kids. And I'm not a prude. I mean, kid killings. That's apparently that became normal, especially with the Terrifier movies. If you see the first one that I saw where kids being killed was um, the summer of '84. I think that movie was called, where a kid gets throat slit from ear to ear, and that was fucking whoa, what the fuck? But that movie had more content and creepiness, and yeah, and but like I said, the VHS stories are they're becoming more and more like disturbing and shocking and what the fuck and that kind of stories. And mm, I'm gonna be honest, if you watch an entire VHS movie, you kind of want to wash yourself these days. After the last VHS movies, you kind of want to wash yourself because you'll feel you're under blood too. So they're still good, great effects. They did the Halloween aspect right, and for people gorehounds, it's the place to go. But I do want some that are creepy, that are really creepy, and there's an atmosphere there, and you know you're creeped out, and at the end you're like, whoa, and you know that kind of, but scary, really scary, scary. But you don't get that. You don't get that. In my opinion, don't get that. That's me. That's me. That's me. But in my opinion, they're not scary anymore. Like I said, the Kuchi Kuchi Kuwitch, yeah, they did that. That was doing with the hand out of the door when she's doing that Kuchi Kuchi Koo thing. That was scary as fuck. But then it became weird with the man baby running around, and they weren't dangerous. They weren't trying to hurt you. So no, so yeah, and the witch wasn't trying to hurt them. She was trying to put those two girls into her harem of mm, mm, gir- women babies, man babies, children babies. Yeah. So yeah, that was it. And so that being said, it's a 5.5, especially for the efforts that they put in there, the effects, the Halloween vibe, the gore, but story wise, content wise, atmosphere, creepiness, a content. But again, like I said, these short stories, to make content in such a short story, it's hard. I understand, but you still can have some atmosphere and tense moments in there. And the first one, in my opinion, was the best one. Then, yeah, Kuchi Kuchi Koo Witch. So that being said, see you next time for a good juicy review for the month October.